Good morning, this is Chris.
And this is Madeline.
Reading the Society News for Friday the 1st of June 2018. On Tuesday, there will be a coffee morning held in support of the Society on Tuesday the 5th of June at the Post Office in Knighton. All are welcome from 10:30am till 12 noon. The Ryde Swimming Group will be swimming this coming Tuesday the 5th of June at the Waterside Pool in Ryde. The swimming group has sole use of the pool during the session, and there are lifeguards in attendance. If you are interested in joining the group, please contact the Society to advise us of your swimming ability and for us to advise the Waterside Pool.
Wednesday, the weekly coffee morning will be held at Millbrook House this Wednesday, the 6th of June. The coffee mornings are not just for blind and partially sighted people. Anybody can come along and have a cup of coffee or tea, as well as a piece of cake. The Society coffee morning will be joined by the Macular Degeneration Group for their monthly meeting, as well as Tom McInulty from the Macular Society. We will be holding the low vision drop-in between 10am and 12 noon on Wednesday the 6th of June. This is a weekly event to allow you to view and try the low vision equipment we have at the Society without the need for an appointment. The Wednesday social group will be meeting on Wednesday the 6th of June at 2pm in Millbrook House. The entertainment this week is a Carisbrooke Castle and Isle of Wight history talk. The talk lasts approximately 45 minutes and is then followed by tea or coffee and cake.
Thursday. The Thursday social group are meeting on Thursday the 7th of June at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30am till 2pm. You can have a chat and knit if you wish. Then later in the afternoon, volunteers come in and read to the groups from different topics.
Any other news? Local volunteers from the Guide Dogs charity will be visiting a number of venues over the next few months, talking about the work of the charity and how you can be involved. They will be at Sandown Library on the 23rd of June, Ryde Library on the 21st of July and Ventnor Library on the 18th of August. All the library venue times will be 10:30 till 2:30. You can also find them at the Isle of Wight Community Club Open Day at Park Road in Cowes on August the 27th from 12 noon onwards. Dress for Less will be closed on Thursday the 7th of June and we apologise for any inconvenience. There will be a fundraising bucket collection outside of Morrison's supermarket in Newport on the morning of Saturday the 9th of June in aid of Sight for Wight. Do you enjoy the activities and facilities provided by Sight for Wight? Perhaps you've recently attended an activity or event and would like to wax lyrical about it. If so, then Chris Kane would like to hear from you. As part of our promoting well-being and supporting services and activities, we would like to hear your positive feedback, which will be part of a video promoting Sight for Wight. If you have a story you would like to enthuse about and don't mind being recorded on video, then please contact Chris Kane on 52205 or email admin@iwsb.org.uk.
Scaffolding news. Please find below a list of known footway obstructions for works including scaffolding or hoarding. We are unable to include end dates as many are extended on a week-by-week basis. Also included are tables and chairs permits that have been issued in the past week. Bay and Ventnor area. There is currently scaffolding at the Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade Sandown, 11A and 11B St John's Road Sandown, 79 High Street Sandown, 64 High Street Sandown, Shanklin, 40 Little Stairs Road, Shanklin, Shanklin Hotel, Eastmount Road, Shanklin, United Reformed Church, High Street, Shanklin, the corner of Trinity Road and Madeira Road, Ventnor, 1 Boniface Road and into Trinity Road, Ventnor, 22 Spring Hill, Ventnor, Hose Roads Dixon, 1 High Street, Ventnor, Lewis Cottage, Market Street, Ventnor, and 21 West Street, Ventnor. New scaffolding is due up at the Toymaster, 103 High Street, Sandown, from the 11th of June. And there are currently skips at Undercliff House, 5 Esplanade, Shanklin, 25 Donington Drive, Shanklin, and new skips are due at 26 South Street, Ventnor, from the 11th of June. There are currently hoardings at White City, Culver Parade, Sandown, Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade, Sandown, and the United Reformed Church, High Street, Shanklin.
In the Cowes area, there is currently scaffolding at the Royal London Yacht Club, the Parade Cowes, Sainsbury's 129 to 130 High Street Cowes, 3 Castle Road Cowes, 78 Park Road Cowes, and there are currently skips at 42 St Andrew Street Cowes, 18 The Green Cowes, in Service Lane outside property, 4 Trafalgar Court Terminus Road Cowes, 22 St David's Road East Cowes, 9 Albany Road East Cowes. There are currently hoardings at 93 High Street Cowes.
Newport area. There is currently scaffolding at 18 Lugley Street, Newport, Domino's, St James's Street, Newport, 42 Trafalgar Road, Newport, Clinton's Cards, High Street, Newport, W.H. Smith, 55 to 56 High Street, Newport, Therapy, 2 to 8 Carisbrooke Road, Newport, White Mountain Bike Shop, St James's Street, Newport, the scaffold is up on Orchard Street, and 34 Clifford Street, Newport. There are currently skips at 59 White Pit Lane, Newport.
In the Ryder area, there is currently scaffolding at Rectory Mansion 1, Key Lane, Brading, Clinton Cards, High Street Ride, W.H. Smith, 20 to 21 High Street Ride, St James's Church, Market Street Ride, 26 George Street Ride, 11 John Street Ride, the Colonnade, Lind Street Ride, 13 Cross Street Ride, Charcoal Grill, 65A Union Street Ride, Superdrug, High Street Ride. New scaffolding is due up at Kids & Co, 22 High Street Ride, from the 11th of June. There are currently skips at 4 South Street Ride, 2 Cornwall Street Ride, 113 High Park Road Ride, 10 John Street Ride, Sand Cove, Pier Road Seaview, Rock Cliff, Circular Road Seaview. New skips are due at 11 Glendale Close, Wootton, from the 11th of June.
And the West White area. There is currently scaffolding at the Memorial Hall, Avenue Road, Freshwater, Jojo's School Green Road, Freshwater, Sainsbury's, 10 School Green Road, Freshwater, Causeway Cottage, the Causeway, Freshwater, Holdings and the Old Post Office in Key Street, Yarmouth.
This week's In Touch. In Touch in this week's episode, St Vincent's School in Liverpool. School has changed for blind children. Peter White recalls leaving education with a knowledge of history and physics and an inability to iron a shirt or peel a potato. but at St Vincent's School in Liverpool, the fundamentals of living cookery, the ability to navigate and even ironing sit alongside the national curriculum. We meet Vice Principal Angela Simpson as she takes us through the corridors and take a walk with the head girl Marcia for a lesson in visually impaired street skills. This is presented by Peter White and produced by Kevin Core.
And now for the headline of the County Press on Friday the 1st of June. Boy 9 in well plunge. A 9-year-old boy is lucky to be alive after plunging 30 feet down a disused well in Whitwell. In an exclusive interview with the County Press, firefighters from Newport's Red Watch described their rescue of the boy, who plummeted down the well after a game of hide and seek in a relative's back garden went horribly wrong. The dramatic rescue involved 20 firefighters, 2 fire officers, as well as police and the ambulance service. The boy was flown to Southampton General Hospital by air ambulance following the rescue, but he is not thought to have been seriously injured during his ordeal. Firefighter John Sedgley from Newport, who was lowered into the well to rescue the boy, said, "On the way down, I was trying to reassure him. He was screaming, he was in distress and panicking." The drama began at around 3:45 p.m. on Tuesday, when the boy and his family were visiting a relative on the outskirts of Whitwell. The boy was playing hide and seek in the garden and climbed over a 3-foot wall which surrounded the disused well. It had been capped by wire mesh at ground level, and the mesh had become overgrown, hiding the 30-foot drop below, according to the firefighters. However, the mesh gave way, sending the boy plummeting down before he came to rest on a shelf at the bottom of the well, just above around 7 feet of water. The boy's family were alerted by his cries for help, and they called the emergency services. The boy remained conscious throughout the entire rescue. Firefighters from Shanklin, Ryde and Newport raced to the scene, and the Newport crew brought specialist equipment which can be used to rescue people trapped in shafts. Firefighter Sedgley was lowered through a narrow gap into the dark, cramped well shaft to reach the boy. He added, "I tried to calm him down when I got close. I tried to find out if he had any injuries. I was amazed he did not appear to have any fractures. However, he was in a great deal of pain due to his cuts." A sling was lowered and the boy attached. He was followed on his ascent to the surface by firefighter Sedgley. He said, "That is a once-in-a-career rescue. I was amazed he had not hit his head on the way down." Duty officer Jeff Walls praised the boy's mother, who talked to him throughout the rescue. He said, "She was incredibly brave. I had never seen anything like it. If that shelf had not been there, the boy would have gone into the water."
Spitfire pilot Mary meets PM at Air Force celebration. Prime Minister Theresa May had the pleasure of meeting island aviator Mary Ellis at the RAF 100 centenary celebration at Downing Street. Mrs. Ellis served as a pilot with the Air Transport Auxiliary, a service which delivered aircraft to the RAF, armed with only a map, a compass and a stopwatch during the Second World War. Theresa May gave a special tribute to Mrs. Ellis in her opening remarks at the event, saying, "It is great to see so many servicemen and women here for these special centenary celebrations, and a particular honour to welcome Mary Ellis, who flew Spitfires and bombers to frontline bases in the Second World War." The 101-year-old, who said she delivered about 1,000 planes during the war, was given the Freedom of the Isle of Wight earlier this year and a Master Air Pilot certificate by the Honourable Company of Air Pilots in 2016. She said, Meeting the Prime Minister was absolutely wonderful.
Broken glass risk. Smashed beer bottles have been found at Apley Park by a dog walker who has warned people to be aware of dangerous jagged glass. The broken bottles, which appeared to have been deliberately buried at the popular Ryde Park, were discovered last Thursday, May the 24th. The dog walker, who was asked not to be named, said it was a very nasty act of stupidity and vandalism. He said, "Clearly a group of drunk morons have placed the bottles there so that when the lawnmower cuts the grass, they are broken and leave spikes of glass sticking up out of the ground. I feel this needs to be made public, for members of the public to be vigilant, as Apley Park is used daily by many dog walkers and families with small children. The glass could badly cut a person or a dog and cause a lot of harm." He found 2 bottles and cleared the glass away, then reported it to the Isle of Wight Council and called the police. The council said, "We are inspecting the area for further damage and removing any further bottles, but please be careful when walking over the grass." County Press readers commenting on Facebook branded those responsible mindless morons, idiots and sickos, and asked why anyone would risk deliberately hurting children and animals. Others said they had seen similar acts of vandalism elsewhere on the island. Helen Horder said, "Found a half-broken bottle partly buried on Compton Beach. The tide was out, lots of tots walking around and paddling. It would have caused them a lot of distress. Looked as if they had been deliberately left there very recently." Stuart Warner added, "Same sort of thing at Victoria Recreation Ground. Deliberately broken bottles around the swing area. It took me 20 minutes to collect them all up. Green bottles in green grass, so mindless and dangerous."
Blindfold walk for charity. The Isle of Wight group, RP Fighting Blindness, are walking or cycling from Shanklin to Seaview next Saturday, June the 10th, to raise funds. Retinitis pigmentosa, or RP, is the name given to a group of inherited conditions of the retina that lead to a gradual reduction in vision. The group aims to support high-quality medical research with the aim of increasing understanding and finding treatments for retina-related conditions. Walkers can meet at Hope Beach, Shanklin from 8:30 a.m. for breakfast and coffee at the Salix Cafe before heading off at 10 a.m. Actress Jenny Linden, who has starred in films such as Women in Love, will send the team on their way. The route will take the group up over Culver Cliff and follow the coastal path to Bembridge, along the Dover, through Seagrove Bay and along to Seaview. Around 13 miles long, the route will take more than 5 hours, with 13 stops along the way to pass the baton of blindness. One person will be blindfolded for each mile of the journey. To donate to the team, visit www.justgiving.com/Team Hope to Seaview, and that's without any stops.
Prisoners stay on the Isle of Wight after release. Almost a third of prisoners released from Her Majesty's Prison Isle of Wight in the last year remained on the island. Between February 2017 and February 2018, 30 prisoners were released from the jail. Of these, 9 registered with an island address on their release. The Ministry of Justice declined to specify the crimes of the 9 who remained on the island, or to say how many were originally from the Isle of Wight. Her Majesty's Prisons Isle of Wight has 2 prisons, Albany and Parkhurst. The sites merged in 2009. Albany houses Category B sex offenders or vulnerable prisoners with sentences of 4 years or more, with at least 18 months left to serve. Parkhurst houses sentenced prisoners serving over 4 years, including vulnerable prisoners, Stage 1 and 2 life sentence prisoners and some islanders in custody pending trial. The prisons have a capacity of 1,139. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Community Rehabilitation Company supervises offenders released from custody who are classed as posing a low and medium risk of harm. The Chief Operating Officer said, "We believe the best way to protect the communities we are proud to serve is by supporting people to make positive change and to successfully rehabilitate. We work closely with a range of partner agencies to achieve this. We also rigorously uphold sentences made by the court and, when required, breach offenders for failing to comply with their sentence."
Cuts setting up our children for failure. Parents of children with special educational needs and disabilities, or SEND, have spoken of their fears school funding cuts will set Isle of Wight children up for failure. The latest figures compiled by teaching unions show Isle of Wight schools are facing budget cuts of almost 2.9 million by 2019-20, and Save Our Schools Isle of Wight are protesting against the likely cuts. One campaign organiser, Maria Villa Vine, said, "Our children need services, specialist support, teaching staff and resources appropriate to them. It is about what our children have a right to, an investment and a prospect for a real future." Rebecca Blatchford, whose son has ADHD and often self-soothes by singing and making noises, said without support staff he could become disruptive. The support staff manage his anxiety levels and keep him on the task at hand. By not providing essential funding, we're setting up the schools to fail, and we're setting up our island children to fail, all of them. Maggie Sanderson, head teacher of Carisbrooke Primary School, added, "Without the SEND staff, none of the children would get the education they deserve." Vix Lothian from the Isle of Wight Green Party called the culture in schools for children with SEND a crisis that could not be solved solely by additional funding. The entire culture of schools, high-pressure testing, extreme academic focus, fines for term-time holidays, and the reduction in status for creative arts in schools, all contribute to our pupils, especially SEND, being massively let down. Children are squeezed into pigeonholes, and the fact some parents feel forced to home educate because the schools can't handle a child's SEND is wrong. Mark Chiverton, Unison Branch Secretary, branded the number of jobs lost in terms of support staff as astronomical. Support staff perform a magnificent job day by day that helps the most disadvantaged of children, and those with SEND are most affected by their cuts. Island MP Bob Seeley said he welcomed at least £115,000 in extra government money for the island to help with extra places and facilities for SEND pupils. However, Labour's Julian Critchley branded this the most cynical kind of spin that attempted to take an existing sum of money already allocated to schools and announce it as a new funding boost. Mr. Critchley said, "Once again, Bob Seeley's warm but empty words are in direct contradiction of the cold, hard actions of the government he supports, which continues to cut funding to our children's schools."
Parking ban in St Thomas's Square. Cars have been banned from St Thomas's Square, Newport, following complaints about the number of people parking there. The Isle of Wight Council has introduced a traffic regulation order prohibiting waiting at any time on all sides of the square, from the High Streets to Pyle Street junctions. It came into force on May the 18th and will last for 18 months, at which time the council will decide whether to make it permanent. A council spokesperson said, "This order has been put in place to prevent dangerous and unlawful vehicle movements and parking to improve pedestrian safety and the appearance of the square. Unfortunately, signage production has been delayed, but once in place on the square, any breaches of the parking in this area will be strictly enforced. It is an 18-month experimental order. As such, an order can be introduced without consultation. It was deemed a consultation process might delay the introduction of the order, which would not be in the interest of immediately protecting the public when walking through the square."
Revamp promised in NHS services. Community rehabilitation services are changing on the Isle of Wight. New arrangements set to come into force from July the 1st will see the service split between 3 sites instead of the current 7. St Mary's Hospital will no longer have a rehabilitation unit, but the Isle of Wight NHS Trust will provide community rehabilitation in nursing homes and patients' own homes. The bedded elements of the new contract will be delivered in 3 nursing homes under one provider, Hertford Care. The Isle of Wight Clinical Commissioning Group, or the CCG, believes the new arrangements will significantly improve the care people receive. It said the bedded element and recovery services were only a small part of the service, and the majority of people received care in their own homes. Acute rehabilitation services will continue to be provided at the hospital. The community rehabilitation unit at St Mary's has not been used since October 2017. During the winter, it was used as a general medical ward to provide extra capacity. The ward is due to close, with patients transferred to other medical wards and staff redeployed to other areas. Matt Smith from Cowes used the community rehabilitation unit at St Mary's in 2013. He said there was a need to improve rehabilitation services on the island. He said, "I think they should build a purpose-built rehabilitation unit with a hydrotherapy pool which would help aid recovery. There is a need for better equipment, more staff and better training." Jonathan Smith, Assistant Director of Integrated Commissioning, said, "We believe we are now moving to a system which is in line with the very best services from elsewhere in the country and which will significantly improve the care people receive. The new service will increase both the amount and the quality of support patients receive from nursing and therapy staff, and that support will be around the clock. Bringing the recovery services together into 3 centres instead of 7 will really transform the way health and care teams can work together for the benefit of their patients. We fully expect to see recovery times reducing as a direct result of this change." A spokesperson for Hertford Care, which runs Highfield Nursing Home, Springfield Nursing Home and the Elms Bembridge, said, "Each of our nursing homes is led by an experienced home manager and team that represent the respectful and empathetic approach of Hertford Care, while addressing the needs of each individual person. Those who come to stay with us to recuperate will continue to benefit from the comprehensive care, comfort and companionship that underpins the Hertford Care ethos. We are proud to be able to play a part in each person's recovery."
Island's exceptional youngsters praised at Isle of Wight Radio Awards. Remarkable island children were celebrated at Isle of Wight Radio's 2018 Child of Wight Awards. Sponsored by White Fibre, The awards recognise children across the island who have shone in the face of adversity. Overall Child of White winner was courageous Sophie McKinnon, who received dozens of nominations. Sophie was born 13 weeks early and has undergone 10 operations, 8 of which were on her brain. She said, "I'm really excited and happy. My friends will be so surprised." Sophie finds going to hospital a bit scary, loves kangaroos and giraffes, and recently welcomed ability dog Trixie to her life. 12-year-old Ediz Ibrahim, who has a zest for life and a wicked sense of humour, was voted Asa Singleton Most Courageous Child. Coping with 3 years of acute leukemia, he learned magic tricks to keep the children's community nursing team entertained. The Make a Difference Award went to the Isle of Wight Youth Trust Young Ambassadors, who've been highlighting the importance of mental health through their You Matter campaign. Sophie Crombie, 8, who regularly danced at charity events and has performed at Disneyland Paris, won the Young Achiever Award. She suffers with joint pains after being born prematurely. She weighed only 2 pounds 5 ounces and said her biggest achievement was making people smile. Chloe May Watts, 9, helps with the shopping, cooks with her dad, has memorised her mum's medications and never complains about helping instead of playing. She was Young Carer of the Year. Callie Bancroft, 6, and Millie Heelan chopped off their locks for the Little Princess Trust last year and raised more than £1,000 for the charity, bagging them the Isle of Wight Radio's Fundraiser Award. Gifted dancer and member of the Ride Academy elite team, Louis Harris won the Young Performer Award. He was selected to be National Youth Dance Ambassador for Pineapple Dance Studios, winning a scholarship to attend summer school at a dance conservatoire. The best friend was Christian Schaefer, 12, because of his kind, caring nature and American pancakes with cream cheese and smoked salmon, according to best friend and nominator Lucas Richards. Brayley Shaw, 16, won Best Brother for his love and support of his 11-year-old younger brother Christopher, who has Down syndrome and dyspraxia. Best Sister went to Lottie Wilson, 10, who has learnt Makaton to teach her younger sister who has Down syndrome. She also spent a week in hospital at the bedside of her little brother. Claire Willis, Isle of Wight Radio Managing Director, said, "Picking the Child of Wight Award winners is one of the hardest tasks of the year. Hosting the award is humbling and uplifting in equal measure. It is a privilege for the team to meet these children who have overcome challenge and adversity to make an immeasurable difference to lives on the Isle of Wight."
Home is where the heart is. What better way to trial a new wedding venue than by getting married there yourself? Adgeston Vineyard owners Caroline Fawcett and Russ Broughton became the first couple to get married at the picturesque spot when they tied the knot on Saturday. "We got engaged last year and thought it would be idyllic to get married here," said Caroline. "It's such a beautiful place and holding weddings was something we wanted to move into. So we decided to do a dummy run ourselves." The couple, who sell their wine directly to customers and to island shops, pubs and restaurants, have even made a celebratory sparkling wine for couples getting hitched, an unusual blue-coloured fizz called Something Blue. Caroline and Russ were married in a festival-themed ceremony. The bride wore a pair of snazzy wellies, and the wedding party arrived on tractors and quad bikes. A marquee was erected in the grounds, surrounded by flags and bunting, and 4 bands played throughout the celebrations. Russ, 47, bought the vineyard 5 years ago, and the couple who met 2 years ago now run it together. Caroline, 43, a GP at the Dower House Surgery in Newport, moved from Somerset with her 3 children, Thomas, 13, Isabella, 11, and Zach, 7, to be with Russ and his daughter Ellie, 15. Thomas gave his mum away at Saturday's ceremony. Ellie and Isabella were bridesmaids, and Zach was the ring bearer. Following the wedding, the family flew to Barbados for a honeymoon holiday. Caroline and Russ will be celebrating again later this year to mark Addiston Vineyard's 50th anniversary.
Chef's good wishes to new bakery. Celebrity chef James Martin paid a visit to the newly opened Richmond's Bakery in Cowes on Bank Holiday Monday. He was in Cowes on a sailing trip with friends and dropped into the bakery in Bath Road, which has only been open a week, for a cup of coffee and a slice of walnut cake. Bakery owner Imi Borden said, "I recognised him when he came in. He is the first famous face we have had in the bakery. He stayed and chatted for about 20 minutes and wished me luck with the bakery. The bakery is going well so far and was really busy over the bank holiday weekend."
MPs have a laugh with Jodie. Only 25 of the thousands of entries to VoiceBox, the joke-telling competition for schools, made it through to the final at Westminster, and one of them was the island's Jodie Kelly. The 14-year-old Christ the King College student who wants to be a paramedic or work with computers said, "I was extremely excited but nervous about speaking in the Houses of Parliament." She delighted the packed audience of politicians, parents and children with her joke, "My sister bet me £100 I couldn't build a car out of spaghetti. You should have seen her face when I drove past her." VoiceBox is an annual competition organised by the Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists and partnered by National Association of Head Teachers, supported by the Communication Trust. It reminds people there are children in every classroom who need support to help them speak and understand what it is said to them. John Bercow, Speaker of the House of Commons, said, "VoiceBox is such a fun competition, and I applaud the RCSLT and its partners for running it. It's extremely important children with speech, language and communication needs receive the support they require to reach their potential." RCSLT Chief Executive Kamini Gadhok added, "In every classroom there will be between 2 and 3 children with communication difficulties. The VoiceBox competition helps teachers, children and parents to focus on the impact effective communication can have on a child's social and emotional well-being.
Hazel dormice thrive on the island. Hazel, or common dormice, love the Isle of Wight. The protected species is thriving here. They are being helped to survive on the island thanks to new nesting boxes at Bridlesford Wood, which is one of the 3 sites where dormice are encouraged and monitored. The others are Hazley Manor and Brading Marshes. New boxes have been erected at the Hazel Coppice by the People's Trust for Endangered Species, PTES. Hazel dormice are a protected species, but changes in woodland management, farming practices, loss of hedgerows and the fragmentation of woodland have taken a heavy toll on their living space. PTES dormouse expert Ian White said, "The Isle of Wight is one of the best places in the country for dormice, having fairly small field systems. Predators on the mainland tend to eat them, but on the island they are better protected. Dormouse nest boxes are vitally important, as well as providing additional shelter for hazel dormice and other visitors. They offer a way to detect the rare creatures. There is a nationwide monitoring scheme in place with more than 25 years' worth of records collected by hundreds of volunteer monitors that guide actions to save dormice. The National Dormouse Monitoring Programme has more than 400 monitoring sites across England and Wales. Last year, 6,182 dormice were recorded. To find out how to register dormouse sightings, visit the website www.ptes.org.
You can do it if you want to, says Thomas. Runner, table tennis pro and hemiplegic Thomas Johnson has limited use of his right arm and leg and is partially sighted in his right eye, but plays in the first division of the Island Table Tennis League and recently ran the 106-kilometre Isle of Wight Challenge. Spread over 2 days, the 39-year-old ran the challenge for Age UK Isle of Wight. Thomas of Wroxall said, "They supported my mum through her bad arthritis, and it's an amazing local cause." He completed the run in 16 hours, arriving back in Cowes at 3:30 p.m. on the Sunday, despite injuring himself. "I want to put out there that whatever disability you have, there are ways you can do anything. If you really want to, you can." Thomas is 9th in the UK for his category in the Paralympic Table Tennis League, where he plays against full-time professional players. He juggles table tennis training with his full-time job as a kitchen supervisor at St Mary's Hospital and training for his running. People can support Thomas's Isle of Wight Challenge run at www.justgiving.com/fundraising/Tom White Challenge.
Celebrating 100 years of the RAF. The island celebrated the centenary of the formation of the Royal Air Force on Sunday with a church service and parade in Cowes. The highlight of the service at St Mary the Virgin Church was the presentation to 99-year-old Harry Flack of the Ordre National de la Légion d'Honneur. He was present at the D-Day landings in Normandy 74 years ago. He was presented with the honour by the Lord Lieutenant of the Isle of Wight, Major General Martin White. The service, led by the Reverend Andrew Pope, was also attended by Air Vice Marshal Tony Stables and Isle of Wight High Sheriff Joya Minghella Giddens. Following the service, a parade led by Medina Marching Band and the White Diamonds Marching Band marched from the church to the parade in Cowes. The march consisted of members of the RAF Association, the Royal British Legion, and Air Cadets and the British Legion Riders.
Anger over sale of rare album. The possible loss of a rare collection of photographs by Julia Margaret Cameron has been branded a national disgrace. Dr. Brian Hinton, chairman of the Julia Margaret Cameron Trust, questioned why the government was not doing more to save the historic Norman album, which has been put for sale for $3.7 million and could now leave the country. Dr. Hinton said, "It's a national disgrace. Why is the government letting something so important go out of this country and not fighting to keep it here? The best we can do is ask for a facsimile of the album for the museum, which we have done and are waiting to hear back." Cameron was a pioneering photographer of the Victorian era and lived at Dimbola Lodge, Freshwater Bay, which is now a museum and gallery dedicated to her life and work. The Norman album features portraits of important historical figures, including Charles Darwin and the poet Alfred Lord Tennyson, which she compiled between 1864 and 1869. Dimbola trustee and treasurer Gail Middleton said, "Originally we looked at forming a partnership and were in touch with the Arts Council, who were very helpful, but we would have had to raise £1 million. We would love to keep it in this country, not necessarily at Dimbola, but the costs are just too restrictive. The album comprises 74 albumen prints and was originally given to Cameron's daughter Julia and her husband Charles Norman to thank them for giving Cameron her first camera. Just 10 similar such albums by Cameron are known to exist. Arts Minister Michael Ellis had placed a temporary export bar on the album in February, hoping it would be bought by a UK buyer.
And it's goodbye from Chris.
And it's goodbye from Madeline.
Good morning, this is Chris again.
And this is Lester, and we start off with the readers' letters. First one. Local member doing a job, from Councillor Carl Love, East Cowes. I refer to Councillor Whitehouse and his puzzling, presumptive and emotive comments in his letters. Sadly, his comments are destructive and bear no relation to the sincere and meaningful communications I have had with the Studio School pupils, families and supporters. These young people have engaged positively with me and have asserted their right to be represented by their local member. I felt privileged to be invited to participate in their peaceful right to protest, along with other councillors, as this supports their democratic right to free speech. Does a community not expect the local town and county representative to engage directly with them, to champion, support and ensure that their voices are represented in every public and political forum possible? There was no exploitation of young people until Councillor Whitehouse intervened with his comments. I am bemused Councillor Whitehouse only now, after the closing date of DFE listening period, declares his open support for the studio schools. Clearly he was towing the party political line when public support for the school and its young people could have made a real difference. I'm proud to be representing this school, not only because it is within my constituency, but because I believe it is its ethos and hard work and commitment of all its staff. All we need is time to come up with a proper plan. I've never asked the Isle of Wight Council to take over the school as stated by Councillor Whitehouse. In fact, I could not imagine a more incompatible route to follow, judging by previous Conservative administrations of our school.
Proper response needed to landslip issue. This is from John Harry at East Cowes. I am seriously concerned about the number of landslips that have occurred over recent times along public footpath N122 between the Folly Inn and Island Harbour. More importantly, I am worried about the possible dangers to individuals in the event of more landslips and to the loss of private land, part of a residential park home site bordering the footpath. So far, the only repairs, in inverted commas, carried out have consisted of wooden bridging sections, which are no better than temporary solutions, are expensive and do nothing to address the real issue, which is to reverse the present erosion of the bank and to prevent further instances. I believe money should be earmarked to do the job properly now, because all that has been spent on the bridges so far will be wasted, as will that spent on any further temporary patching up. This seems short-sighted and irresponsible on all levels.
This from Tim Bristow in Ryde. Cash-rich RNLI took away my donation box. Further to my letter, regard refusing to take more RNLI donations in my shop until they reinstate the 2 sacked Whitby lifeboatmen because they had saucy mugs in their station kitchen cupboard. An RNLI official has now come to my shop in Bembridge and taken away the donation box, so I couldn't collect donations even if I wanted to. Many people in Bembridge have been into the shop following my letter and said how ridiculous the RNLI are being. I hope the RNLI take this on board and get back to what they're supposed to be doing, saving lives at sea. As far as donations are concerned, according to official RNLI sources, they are sitting on a cash pile of £200 million, though they don't exactly need our donations.
Cuckoo heard at Newtown, from Lynn Pafford of Ventnor. In reply to Celia Vosper's letter in the County Press on the 25th of the 5th, 18, yes, I have heard a cuckoo this year on the island while walking in town copse at Newtown on May the 4th. Such a joyous sound heralding in the new spring.
And this from Joan Quirk in Shanklin. Hullabaloo made most of terrible conditions. Further to the letter from Mr. Cooper regarding hullabaloo at Sandown, I would like to make some comments. With regard to disabled parking, there were the usual arrangements in the neighbouring car park at Yaverland and Sandham Gardens. As well as the portable toilets, others, including disabled, were available for everyone at Brown's Cafe and Dinosaur Isle. Unfortunately, the weather on the Saturday was extremely wet with heavy downfalls of rain, but the carnival parade went ahead, including music from a samba band, children from Bay Primary School dance, Vibes Morris dancers, and of course, shade makers. Most of the food outlets shut up shop as visitors were not queuing in the rain, and I don't blame them, but you could still get food at Brown's if you wanted to. The entertainment was moved into the large marquee where everyone performed to the best of their ability in a small space. All credit to them. There were also many stalls and exhibitions of interest in both marquees. If Mr. Cooper had been able to attend on the Sunday, he would have seen a very different hullabaloo with the sun shining. The bands and dancing on the main stage were brilliant, as was the demonstration of rocket power. Many people watched the soapbox derby and the entertainment beforehand. My visitors from the mainland definitely enjoyed it. I commend the organisers for arranging such an eclectic and free event in Sandown. It is not a festival charging lots of money for a ticket, and I think it is a shame some people feel it is appropriate to undermine other people's hard work. Surely an event of this nature draws together the people of Sandown and beyond, and it should be applauded. Unlike Mr. Cooper, I will be going again next year and will definitely tell my friends all about it.
We're already fighting for hut owners. This is from John Alford, the chairman of Seaview Road Chalet Owners Association Freshwater. With regard to proposed new charges for beach huts in the County Press on the 25th of the 5th, 18, we, the Seaview Road Chalet Owners Association, SVRCOA, find ourselves in agreement with the owners that you interviewed from the Dun Roaming site. Although Dun Roaming charges, like those at Seaview Road, Madeira Lane, Colwell, are, as you state in the article, to be considered separately at a future date, we would echo the comments reported concerning the charges which are proposed for Puckpool, Gurnard, East Cowes and Old Littlestairs. In response to the suggestion by Julia Downton of the Felixstowe Beach Hut and Chalet Association, owners should form an association. May we point out our association has existed for several years and had a number of successful negotiations with the Isle of Wight Council. We would be pleased to hear from owners from Dun Roaming or any of the other sites who may be interested in cooperating with the SVRCOA or forming their own association. They are invited to telephone 01983 755 511 or 07817 596984.
From Barry Ewens, Nettleston, Chair not listening to residents. With regard to the proposed development on the ancient Gibwell field, situated between Nettleston Hill and Seaview Lane, the Seaview and Nettleston Parish Council has little or no interest in the views of residents, especially those whose dwellings are on either side of the development. The quote by Chair Councillor Vilma Barraclough: "We have considered the opposing views and felt the wider needs of the parish outweigh those concerns. And this is utter rubbish, as she obviously, along with her colleagues, has not listened to a word of what we have to say." I've been attending the last 4 meetings with members of the Nettleston Residents Association, and at each one we have tried to discuss the proposed development and have tried to get an open meeting because of the concerns. At each meeting, Councillor Barraclough stated they could not discuss the plans as they were only proposals and the plans had not been formally lodged with the Isle of Wight Planning Department. At the last meeting, when the development came up and the plans had now been lodged, more than 35 residents packed the tiny church hall with the intention of long debate, voicing our concerns. It was obvious to everyone the parish council had already agreed before any debate that they were going to back the proposal. The chair said she would allow 5 minutes to voice our concerns. What a joke. This development will decimate the look of the village. A large 3-storey building will overlook the famous college cottages as well as the old Nettleston Manor, purported to be the oldest brick-built dwelling on the island. The increased traffic will be horrendous, leading to less parking for residents in Seaview Lane. The total outlook of a pretty village will be grossly changed. Also, there are concerns regarding the bats, owls, badgers, foxes, etc., which can be spotted in this field. In this field sits one of the oldest oak trees on the island, and red squirrels can be spotted in the branches. There are currently 3 developments in and around Nettleston, so I can see no need for even more to be built. Is this just another development company out to increase its already large bank balance by offering to build a care home for the council, a bit of parking for the schools and some open space for residents to use?
Looking back, 100 years ago, on June the 1st, 1918, search parties were dispatched after a boy fell over the cliffs at Freshwater. The boy had been hunting with his friend when he slipped and landed on the cliffs below. His friend immediately raced back home to raise the alarm. His body was found by police in the water just west of Tennyson Monument. A private from France wrote to the county press to note it was remarkable how many men from the Isle of Wight one met in almost every part of the battle area. Considering the smallness of the island, it was very creditable how many came forward to take part in the greatest battles in history. "Keep smiling and leave the rest of us out here," he wrote.
This from 75 years ago, on May the 29th, 1943. An 18-year-old convict from Camp Hill Prison, Frederick Walter Fox, ran away from a working party outside the prison and escaped into the forest. He was caught 3 hours later in Colborne by the police. Fox, who had been serving a 5-year sentence for manslaughter, gave himself away by running when a policeman questioned his business. A leading aircraftman went missing from the station in Freshwater. Later, as a comrade was lowered over the Needles Cliffs on a rope, his body was seen in the sea 300 feet below. It was thought he had fallen while trying to collect eggs.
50 years ago, May the 25th, 1968. A school inspection at Ryde School led to a family reunion for junior student Stephen Dines. He was a member of the Combined Cadet Force and had been working with his force mates to impress the inspector, when he realised it was his cousin, Lieutenant John Dines. Lieutenant Dines was impressed with the school's cadets after they showed off their canoeing, tent pitching, model aircraft training and weapon work. The 35th Isle of Wight musical competition received a visit from distinguished music personality Eileen Crane, who presented the awards and attended the winners' concert at Ryde Town Hall. She said, "This is an event really worth supporting," as she praised the musicality of the island.
And 25 years ago, May the 28th, 1993, lecturers at the Isle of Wight College staged a one-day stoppage as part of the ongoing dispute over new contracts. Picket lines were manned around the college site by members of the National Association of Teachers who felt their conditions of employment could be eroded. The detective leading the hunt for those responsible for a spate of violent burglaries on the Isle of Wight appealed to the criminal fraternity to stop the sadistic robbers before someone was killed. The latest victim was a pub landlord who was beaten over the head and robbed of £2,000. Detective Chief Inspector Chris Brown said, "If anyone knows who is doing this, they have a moral duty to tell us so that they can be stopped."
10 years ago, on May the 30th, 2008, the cost of diesel on the island was the highest in the country, as drivers paid £1.44.9 a litre for some rural outlets. Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Tourism President Steve Porter said island businesses from tourism to farming would suffer. A group of cow sailors were caught up in protests in France over the rising prices globally as they arrived in Deauville, Normandy, to a blockade of vessels flying the Jolly Roger. Market traders claimed they had been excluded from Yarmouth Old Gaffers Festival as organisers felt they would lower the tone of the event. One trader had taken part in the event for 4 years running before having her latest 2 applications rejected. She said she was the victim of discrimination as organisers told her they did not want the event to become a glorified market.
And now, my view, and this column is written by Kat James, crotcheting for the zombie apocalypse. For the past 4 weeks, I have been confined to barracks recuperating from surgery. I'm not soliciting sympathy, just creating context. My face is mostly bandaged and my left eye is partially obscured, which has prevented me from reading or using my computer. Nonetheless, I've used my recovery time constructively and taught myself to crochet, a classic heritage skill. Interestingly, I can crochet despite having just one operational eye. In fact, as anyone who's ever had a hook-wielding nan can tell you, once you've got your rhythm, you barely need to look at your needle. From being a complete novice, I can now generate about 24 granny squares a day, stitching away relentlessly like Madame Defarge at the guillotine crochet, will be an essential skill once the zombie apocalypse comes, as we'll all need blankets or shrouds. The zombie apocalypse may be a trope of popular fiction, but it's also an interesting way of finding out who to have on your team when society finally breaks down, a surprisingly regular topic of conversation among my pals. I have a chum who can make fire, another who can forge horn-handled knives. As in any rural community, I know a man who can skin a rabbit. I have a contact who has fantastic horticultural skills honed on his abundant allotment in Seaview. Plus, I know an ecologist who can identify edible fungus from the toxic varieties. So hopefully, us survivors won't starve. As well as farming, hunting and gathering skills, we'll need a stronghold. I have a friend who's convinced Needles Battery would be easy to defend, set as it is on a vertical chalk cliff with just a narrow drawbridge at the entry point. Although we won't be cultivating many vegetables on that arid and windswept parade ground. Carisbrooke Castle might be the best bet. After all, it was designed to be impenetrable. Plus, it has a supply of fresh water to draw if we could harness zombies to operate the donkey wheel. Even so, we might need to defend the castle. I'd be rubbish at fighting. As I said, I'm on crocheted shroud detail. However, at this February's hedge-laying competition, I saw plenty of skilled craftfolk who knew how to wield billhooks and chainsaws. Plus, I have a friend who won a medal for archery at the Island Games. She suggests she could probably take out a zombie as long as it stood still at an exact range of 50 metres while she sets up her bow sights. Perhaps not entirely spontaneous, but it would have a certain pleasing symmetry with the castle's archers of yore. So we've got a fortress, food, weapons and crocheting sorted. What heritage skills will you bring to this dystopian future? I asked this question of a young friend who had obliterated plenty of zombies in his virtual world computer games world. How will you survive the zombie apocalypse, Bill? Easy, he replied casually. I'll become a zombie.
It's just basic fun and games. From Jim Gibbons. In 1970, John Horton Conway, mathematician and general-purpose genius, invented the game of life, which swept like a virus through the world of, at the time, mainframe, i.e. large, computers. Much valuable computer time was devoted to it, often illicitly. Nothing to do with me, Gov. I was somewhere else. It consisted of making patterns on two-dimensional grid. A black cell being alive and a white cell dead. If a live cell had no fewer than 2 live neighbours for support, or more than 3, beware of overcrowding, it survives, otherwise it dies. If a dead cell has 3 live neighbours, it comes to life. The trick was to invent a formation which would survive for generations. Search for Conway and Life for animations of how it works. Some of the starting formations last forever. It's worth also looking at Conway and Sprouts, which is less vegetable than it sounds. Both are seductively simple, much more so than chess, which is full of unnecessary complications, making it difficult to learn, though we must resign ourselves to the way it is. About the same time, the first practical chess programs were being developed. Oddly, the pawns caused the most trouble, having so many different types of move. When personal computers became affordable, the commonest use for amateur programming was to construct computer games. Soon, basic, beginners, all-purpose instruction code was supplied with each personal computer. The original basic computer language was rather looked down on by the experts, as it allowed one to write code, which was hard to understand and to adapt. This was eventually remedied and structured. Basics became the standard. The BBC sponsored one in this country, which became a standard implementation. When graphical user interfaces came on the scene and Windows became the dominant operating system, Richard Russell updated BBC Basic to use the new technology. The electronic version of my Walk the White game was written in BBC Basic for Windows, BB4W. The second most frequent use of amateur programming was perhaps to make pictures, patterns and optical effects. The screenshot here comes from a program written in and supplied with BB4W. It depicts a chain of spheres. When the program is running, the chain wanders about the screen, bouncing off the walls or tying itself in knots. It was written by David Williams and Richard Russell. Other sample programs supplied in BB4W include a fractal fern. Fractals are pictures or things which look similar regardless of scale, for example, a tree made up of similar branches. There are many others, a madly coloured pyramid twirling through space with a clock on one side being one, another, of course, being the famous Mandelbrot pattern. Really? No kidding? Well, look it up. Oh, God, I'm turning into Arnold Schwarzenegger rabbiting on about PPI. Will I, like him, turn into a small model tank? Watch the next gripping instalment. If you would like to know more about BB4W, go to www.bbcbasic.co.uk. You can get a limited version of it free, so you can try before you buy, though the full version won't break the bank. Give it a whirl. You might like it. Your kids will. Last month's slightly misquoted quote, R.L. Stevenson wrote, "Home is the sailor, home from the sea, and the hunter, home from the hill." This month's who said, "Man is still the most extraordinary computer of all."
Behind the News by Emily Pearce, and an article here which I think is of interest to all of us. New vision for Isle of Wight Sight Charity. Exciting changes are afoot at the Isle of Wight Society for the Blind. For a start, the charity has a snappy new name, Sight for Wight, a new team and a host of new activities on offer. Wine tasting at Rosemary Vineyard, anyone? How about pottery classes? And who wants to join the party at Isle of Wight Pride or geek out at the Island Con comic book convention? One of the island's most established charities, it's fair to say the society has become stuck in a rut in recent years. Aside from get-togethers at its headquarters, the imposing but rather tired Millbrook House off Carisbrooke Road, Newport, and volunteer-led walks, the charity acknowledged it wasn't offering its members as much as it could or reaching enough people. At the Sight for Wight AGM in March, Chief Executive Miriam Tong outlined ambitious plans for the future of the charity. She said it was time to take a leap from the 19th century, when the charity was established, right into the 21st. While we're proud of the origins and the heritage of the charity, founded in 1895, it is important to ensure the widest group of islanders who might benefit from the charity know we are here to help them, she said. There are thousands of people on the island who are sight impaired and might benefit from the support and services we offer, but who are not registered blind and might therefore imagine they cannot turn to us. We have become increasingly aware the name Isle of Wight Society for the Blind might have been off-putting. A key element of Miriam's role will be applying for grants from trusts and other organisations to fund Sight for Wight ambitions. Following an overhaul of the staffing structure, the charity now has an enthusiastic team in place, including marketing and fundraising manager Chris Kane, Member Service Manager Laura Jasper, Finance Officer Lisa Holyhead, an important point aimed at restoring confidence after her predecessor was accidentally overpaid £10,500 due to a payroll error, money the charity is unlikely to recover, and Volunteer Manager Michelle Taylor. They will be spending more time away from Millbrook House, which the charity may sell due to the expense of maintaining the old building, and heading out and about around the island, speaking to people and community groups to develop and deliver island-wide services. Updates on new groups and activities will be posted on its Talking News service, website, and Facebook page. New marketing manager Chris said, "Raising Sight for Wight's profile across the island will be key to its success. As such, the charity has teamed up with Isle of Wight Pride and Island Con and will have a stall at the events this year. Last year, Isle of Wight Pride attracted 5,000 people, and it's estimated this year could see 3 times that many, which is great for us as we will be able to promote ourselves and the charity objectives, said Chris. And we're delighted to be part of Island Con. We're always privileged to be attending, as they don't always allow charity stalls. Attending events will help raise awareness of what we can offer in terms of help and support, and reach out to people island-wide. In terms of new activities, a members' survey revealed they would like to take part in events that were open to both sighted and visually impaired people, something the charity is keen to work on. As well as information on health and support services available on the island, access to audiobooks and the county press, coffee mornings, organised walks and swimming groups, the charity intends to branch out with live music events, exercise classes, holidays and short breaks, sporting activities, food and drink tasting events and technology classes. Thanks to donations from Cheetah Marine and the Co-op, work is underway on Project Swan, Bembridge Haven Yachts Club's project to modify a dinghy for virtually impaired people, so members can try their hand at sailing. Transforming the charity will be no easy feat, and with so many of the third sector organisations, volunteers are needed to drive real change. From admin volunteers and audio library assistants to fundraisers, walking companions and photographers to capture events, Sight for Wight has appealed for people who can spare a few hours a week to help realise its ambitions. And anyone who'd like to help or find out more about our events and activities on offer can contact the charity on 522 205. That's 522 205, or email inquiries@wsb.org.uk.
And now for What's On. More about dementia. Community Spirited is inviting people to an information evening to raise awareness about dementia on Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Parkside Pavilion, East Cowes. Numbers are limited. Call 296592 to book.
Consort returns to the island. The Troy Players Consort, with a vocalist and wind ensembler, return to St Alban, the Martyr Church, Ventnor, next week to perform a concert of light classical music. The concert, next Friday, June the 8th, starts at 7 p.m. There's free admission with a retiring collection for the orchestra and church.
The Blues Brothers are back in black. The award-winning Chicago Blues Brothers are bringing their latest show, the Back in Black Tour, to Shanklin Theatre later this month. This show is a tribute to the legendary Blues Brothers. It's packed with more than 2 hours of blues, Motown and soul songs from both Blues Brothers movies. The show stars Chris Hindle as Jolie Jake Blues and Gareth Davey as Elwood Blues, who are joined on stage by a live band and backup vocalists. See it at the Shanklin Theatre on June the 30th.
Dolomites head for the Isle of Wight. Skinny ties, sharp suits and halter-neck frocks, the Dolomites are soon to bring a 60s rock and roll sound to the island. The King Lud Ride will welcome the band on Friday, June the 15th, for the evening. On Saturday, June the 16th, they hit the Blenheim Ventnor at noon and Armed Forces Day Sandown at 4 p.m, before grooving it up at the Anchor, Cowes, at 8:30. The Dolomites will perform at the Bandstand Ventnor at noon on Sunday, June the 17th, before finishing their tour with a 6:30 p.m. gig at the Old Village Inn, Bembridge.
Do you need help getting online, setting up an email address or job searching? Cowes Library has a digital support assistant who can offer free one-to-one sessions on Friday mornings between 10 a.m. and noon. Sessions must be booked in advance. The library also has a friendly and experienced family historian offering one-to-one sessions on Monday mornings at an hourly rate of £6 and must be booked in advance. To book, ring 293341.
Action on hearing loss will be at Porter Court Sheltered Scheme, Flitcroft Gardens, Lake, between 10 and 11 a.m. on Wednesday for their monthly drop-in. Advice, batteries, cleaning and retubing of the NHS hearing aids will be available. No appointment is necessary. Call 529 522 for more details.
And following on from that, the hearing loss also has a drop-in centre at Bryston Methodist Church on Tuesday, 10 a.m. to noon. The same facilities are available, and again, you need to ring 529533.
A feast of all types of opera. Enjoy a week of theatre and opera at Key Arts in Newport. Stone Crabs Theatre, Origins Theatre, Project Opera and Gaël Lecornet promise powerful and thought-provoking performances with something for everybody. Some Kind of Love Story by Stone Crabs Theatre takes place on Thursday, June the 14th, inspired by the 1940s and 50s film noir genre. This is a dramatic gem written by Arthur Miller. On Friday, June the 15th, is ID by the Origins Theatre. This is billed as a powerful and poignant play about gender and identity that has a message for everyone about the importance of finding themselves. This new production is celebrating and raising funds for UK Pride and has been written to coincide with the opening of UK Pride's arts exhibition at Key Arts. Saturday, June the 16th is the Divas Gala with three formidable female voices and a spectacular pianist performing at operas such as Aida and Norma. The People's Opera Company presents divas from Oriental princesses to maids and priestesses, singing Casta Diva, Sularia, and Baracol. Apologies about the pronunciation there. And more from Annalisa Vaughan, Clarice Williams, Marika Roshka and pianist Joanna Shepherd. The one-woman show about refugees, the other by Gaël Lecornet, is on Sunday, June the 17th. One night, young Mana, forced from Red Yellow Planet, is forced to catch a shooting star to seek a refuge. During her journey across the universe, imagination is her best defence in the struggle for survival. There are concession ticket prices for under 25s. The evening menu is available from 5:30 p.m.
Tenors team up with choir. Best-selling operatic trio Tenors Unlimited, dubbed the Rat Pack of Opera, perform at Medina Theatre next Friday, June the 8th, alongside the island's melodic choir. They come to the Isle of Wight fresh from their recent chart-topping success with Who Is He?, in aid of the Salvation Army, which went in at number 1 on the iTunes classical chart. Tenors Unlimited have performed alongside such notables as Sting, Lionel Richie, Beyoncé, Hayley Westenra, Simply Red and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. Using talents honed in their previous solo careers in opera and theatre, they bring their own blend of wit, humour, charm and vocal arrangements to their performances. To celebrate 15 years together, the trio, Scott Siskin, Jem Sharples and Paul Martin, have assembled a mix of songs in their new show, In Concert with Tenors Unlimited, ranging from opera and pop to the crooner classics as well as old favourites. Melodic Choir have been together for 5 years. The choir's repertoire is varied and appeals to all ages, covering many genres. As well as performing live, the choir has professionally recorded CD, studio sessions featuring their songs. The choir has donated more than £6,000 to charities.
And this is an advert for The Magic of Motown, Under the Stars, and it's on Friday the 10th of August at 7 p.m. Jack Up the 80s presents Friday Night Concert Spectacular, and some of the live stage music that will be performed is from the Four Tops, Supremes, Temptations, Jackson 5, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Lionel Richie, Diana Ross, the Isley Brothers and Mary Wells. And to buy tickets, visit jackupthe80s.co.uk.
And it's goodbye from Chris again.
And it's goodbye from Leicester.
This is the BBC.
This is In Touch, the magazine programme for people like me who are blind or partially sighted. I'm Peter White. Thanks for downloading this week's edition. When I left a special school for blind students many years ago now, I could tell you about the type of longbow used to beat the French at the Battle of Agincourt. I knew about the tonnage of ships leaving the port of Liverpool in 1882, and I had a rough idea what a logarithm was. Trouble is, I couldn't iron a shirt, I could barely boil an egg or peel a potato. But things are very different now in places like this. I'm at St Vincent's School for visually impaired students in Liverpool, and the students eating their lunch here in the dining room are learning to fend for themselves in a way I never did.
Place your finger into the jug half, because what happens is it won't overflow then. Pull it away from the tap when you've got enough water. Is that okay? Yeah, okay. Hi, my name's Paula Beach. I teach cooking and nutrition and independence. We're standing in a kitchen which has got 4 individual kitchens. In each kitchen they've got their own sink, their own microwave, their own toaster. It's fully equipped for the child to work on their own.
I've been taught how to use the 1 cup, but I am the best chef in the world.
You're starting from scratch. What are you trying to instil into the youngsters who've been here today?
I think that people are frightened to let young people use, say, a hot oven or a grill. What I instill in the children is safe techniques at all times, but also, Peter, what I have to do from the beginning is show the equipment cold.
I mean, if you've not actually touched these things, you wouldn't a blind person wouldn't know what they're like.
You wouldn't know. And understandably as well, at home they may be told to stay away from the iron because it's dangerous and they can hurt themselves. So while the iron is cold, I actually show them how it works.
Joe has been having a go at it with help from Paula Beach. I'm just going to go over and see how he's getting on.
So basically, I'm just going an up and down movement and keeping your hand away from it so you don't burn your hand or whatever. You put the flex around your wrist.
So can you explain what those are, Joe? What you're putting around your wrist?
Okay. The flex, the wire, because then you're not ironing the wire. You're not.
So you're not going to iron over the flex?
Yeah, over the flex.
Which could be very nasty, I guess.
Yes.
If you burn through the flex, all sorts of things could happen.
Game over.
Yeah. Game over, yeah. How sophisticated can you get with the things that you're teaching the children?
Well, I do go up to a level of doing a BTEC Jamie Oliver course where the children have to be able to cook for themselves. So it's a broad range. It starts, Peter, it could start from being able to make a cold drink to iron and to using the oven to being able to do a 3-course meal.
What's the ultimate aim, would you say?
To make the children as independent as possible for when they go out either to college or eventually they might have their own home. It'll give them confidence to be able to look after themselves. That's my biggest aim.
I'm Angela Simpson and I'm Deputy Principal at St Vincent's School. On a Wednesday afternoon we have enrichment, anything from ceramics to fitness to extra mobility, cooking and nutrition, but not national curriculum cooking and nutrition, more the fun sort of cooking and nutrition that you have to do to survive. And we have not only our pupils, there are visually impaired pupils who come from local schools to access enrichment activities.
I have heard it suggested that there's a need for independent living, rehabilitation, to be more a part of the curriculum, almost in a sense have part of the curriculum designed for them. And what's your view about that?
Independence is something that we promote wherever they are. And even within the more academic lessons, independence will always be mentioned. As well as their academic studies, they do need to be able to get the academic qualifications that they need to pursue the career that they have in mind. It's no good having a handful of qualifications if they can't get themselves to work and they can't interact with the other employees and they can't get their lunch ready and go to wherever they need to go. It's the whole person that we're trying to evolve, if you like, so that they've got all the necessary skills to survive and succeed.
You do have a broad range of education here, and some visually impaired children may well say, I don't want to do all this stuff. I can get somebody to boil me an egg. I can get somebody to make me a cup of coffee. I want to learn history, English. Is this compulsory?
It's not compulsory, no. If the enrichment is an opportunity for our pupils to try new skills. A lot of the areas of the enrichment will tie into national curriculum subjects anyway. So the ceramics will tie into the art. We do aquaponics, that will tie into science. There's a drama session, so that ties into drama and English. So all of the enrichment activities do tie into our curriculum and the subject areas.
Well, I better get a bit of a move on because I understand that Marcia is just about to have a mobility lesson. That's kind of getting from A to B. She's due to go to the bus stop, catch a bus and go into town. Cheryl McKellen is her instructor.
OK, Marcia, we're starting here on our tactile paving. OK, and what I want you to do is make your way to the end of the path and find the cobbles. OK?
So that's a roller cane, isn't it, Marcia?
A jumbo roller tip. It's just a bigger round ball at the end of your cane, and what it tends to, it doesn't snag as much on uneven pavement, so a lot of the students actually prefer these now. Right, so you found your blister paving, so you know that's indicating that you're road crossing now. So do you want to position your cane ready to cross?
You've got a bit of sight, Marcia. How much are you listening? How much are you looking?
I struggle with my hearing. I have to utilise my sight as much as I can, because my hearing can fluctuate and my sight can fluctuate quite a lot. So it could be that in the next couple of minutes my sight will change and my hearing will get better, so I have to rely on both of them to be okay.
So when you're ready, Marcia, you make your decision to cross and make your way to the cobbles at the end of the path. As we make our way through the trees, obviously the trees above your head are blocking out the sun. So once you're through the trees it will become lighter, and again that's another clue for you to use that lets you know you're at the end of the path.
So we're just catching up with Marcia because I got stuck on the other side of the road because Marcia was too quick for me.
Okay, Marcia, so what I want you to do now is find the landmark and then square off from it to find your down curb.
There's about the fourth road crossing in 400 yards, isn't it? It's almost been designed as an obstacle course. It would have been handy if they'd moved this bus stop a bit nearer, but it wouldn't have been as good a challenge. It's quite interesting for me watching Cheryl instructing Marcia because I'm only using a symbol cane. I must admit, I'd find this quite a challenging walk. It's just a lot of crossings and a lot of turnings in a very short space of time.
So if you just want to come out of the bus stop for me, stand a little bit closer to the curb and put your cane upright and out in front so that the driver can see you. The way we do this, if they have the cane out and it's visible to the drivers should stop with the doors opening as close to them as possible. Obviously, we don't live in a perfect world and it doesn't always happen, but we try.
So Marcia, we've got to the bus stop, and your kind of next couple of challenges are now ahead, which is the bus and going into town. What are the tricky things about that?
On the odd occasion, sometimes bus drivers will decide that they don't want to stop at bus stops, so then I'll lose count of how many bus stops I have to go until I get to the location I'm going to. It can be quite hard with noise on the bus as well sometimes, if there's children screaming, adults shouting at the children. And
when I was at school a long time ago, we just didn't get this training. We just went and picked it up as we went along, really. It was very haphazard. How we all survived, I'm not quite sure. How valuable do you find this kind of training?
It allows us to have that extra little bit of independence, and it allows us to be able to travel independently without having to have someone constantly there miring you or nagging you about going such and such a place. You can go somewhere on your own.
Any things you're looking to do today? You've done the walk. Anything that you particularly want to develop your skills at?
I'll be working on the likes of talking to the people at the counters and asking them for help and asking them to help me find things, and on the bus asking them to tell me where we're going.
It's really interesting you mentioned that, because you can learn all the skills in the world, but one of the things I've found that got me out of trouble most often is being able to talk to people. So you still, although you're learning these skills, that is something you still value, is it? This confidence to actually ask for help when you need it?
I struggle a lot with confidence with most things, so trying to find the confidence to talk to the people to get their help can sometimes be quite hard.
Okay, so you bow down to Father, it's the correct bus, okay? Now to find your way to the door.
Here you go.
Thank you. Can you give me a shout when we get to Sainsbury's, please?
Sainsbury's, yeah.
Okay, all right, bye.
There she goes, off into town. You can probably hear the youngsters in the background getting their dinner. We're just going to walk into the dining room. Interesting change of surface there. It's one thing I've already noticed at the school, that there are a lot of different qualities of surface. And so as soon as you walk in here, it feels different. You know where you are. Angela Simpson again.
We have a talking menu outside that the children can press the button and it will say what's available for lunch each day, so that when they come and queue up, they know what they're going to ask for.
So it's a talking menu rather than a braille menu, is it?
It is, yes. We did used to have braille menus, but the talking menu is quite popular. They just press the button as they're on the way in and it will tell them, and it's updated every day to say what's on the menu.
Yeah, and I suppose that is also something that everybody could access, because not every child is going to find braille all that easy, are they?
Yeah, exactly. We used to have braille and large print menus on the wall, but sometimes, by the time you've found the menu and read it, it's much easier just to know where there's a button on the wall and press it and you get the menu.
Okay, let's grab something to eat if we can. I'm intrigued by this speaking menu, so I'm going to give it a go. There's a big round button on the wall. I wonder what happens if I press this.
Wednesday the 16th of May. Today's menu is cheese pie, sausages, mash, cauliflower, broccoli, jack of potatoes, salad, fresh fruit and yoghurt.
Right, I think I'll have the cheese pie. Thank you, madam.
Some of the younger ones do take great delight in sometimes running past it during the day and pressing it to see if the menu's on. This radiator here, when they trail the wall, this radiator here,
right,
when they get to that, if they do a 90-degree turn, straight opposite them are the doors.
Right, because I noticed going into the dining room, it's a wooden surface, so you notice it.
Yeah, it's wooden in the dining room. Outside the dining room, it's a different floor. Here, it's vinyl tiles, and then when you go through the next double doors, it's carpet.
Right, well, I'm just making my way down another school corridor here. We're coming into another of those changes of texture. And this, I understand, is going to be called the Independence Suite. But it's much more than that. It's almost a microcosm of the community.
Right, this was a large room, but we're dividing it into 4 sections. 2 sections are going to be for pre-work experience placements. Because we've got a cafe on site, we're doing a mock cafe in here, which will allow the children to learn some skills. We've got an office area that's going to be set up and will be connected to the school office, so they can learn some office skills before they go out on work experience. The rest of the complex, we've got a room which is going to be the lounge with a fireplace, sofas. We're going to have a bedroom, there is a bathroom, and there is the kitchen.
So really, actually, this is much more than a house, isn't it? It's a mixture of house, workplace, leisure space, cafe. You're almost trying to create a microcosm of life, aren't you?
Well, yes, we are. And then we've got one more space that we're going to use. And at the moment, I'm thinking we're going to set it up for a careers section.
This is much more than used to happen, isn't it? Without you being unduly modest, I mean, what you seem to be saying is we have to prepare visually impaired people for the whole of life, not just what was conventionally thought of as learning, if you like.
Yeah, we do. We want to ensure that visually impaired young adults are part of society as a whole, and not just somebody that people might treat with some trepidation, might be a little bit afraid of how they should approach somebody who's visually impaired, and give our children the confidence to be able to go out into the sighted world, as it were, to show that they can do everything that everybody else can.
Has this been expensive?
Not really.
I suppose irons don't cost you much. You've put very ordinary things in here.
We have put very ordinary things in. The only thing that I would say that is different than what you might find in an ordinary kitchen is a talking microwave.
Door open. Door closed. Start. High power. 1 minute.
I mean, what is striking me as I'm standing in the middle of all this with irons and sofas and all that is how different this is to when I went to school, which is you went from geography to history to maybe physics or whatever, and it didn't occur to anybody really that we should do all this. It does feel very different. And it does take a leap of faith to entrust your child to a school like St Vincent's. Well, I'm just about to meet someone who's done exactly that. Pam, who's the nan of head boy Robbie Pennington. So Pam, we've been talking about in a way, that sense of risk that parents or guardians must feel when they entrust their children to a school like this, especially when they're doing things like, messing about with hot fat, boiling kettles, all that sort of thing. I just wonder what your own reaction to that has been.
Yeah, the risk is always there, no matter where you are. I feel quite comfortable when he's in the kitchen and using all the skills that he's learned since he's been here. Did
you always feel like that, though? I'm just asking you to cast your mind back to when you first knew that he was in the kitchen messing about with hot water and fat and, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, no, it was hysterical. No, I was like, out my mind, like, oh, no. But just as time goes on and everything, he sort of... Obviously, he's supported in everything that he does, but it's a scary moment, isn't it? Even with a sharp knife.
Were you letting him do those kind of things at home, in your kitchen?
No.
So, Robbie, did you notice the difference? What is the significance of doing this kind of thing, the lessons that you learn here?
I'm comfortable in a place like this, but at the same time, it's nerving. Like when you're dealing with objects like knives or anything like that. I can get from like A to B if I have, a cane, and I'm, capable of getting daily things done, but I do still need, obviously, support in some things that my visual impairment makes me lack.
What's clear to me from the time I've spent here is that today's visually impaired students are being taught living skills in a way that pupils like me had to pick up for themselves, and which some of us never did. What maybe hasn't changed is that, as Marcia said, having the confidence to ask for help when you really need it is still a vital tool in leading a full life.